No one in the room. Right. I can't do anything about it. You're either going to have to live with it or stop complaining. I unplug it, you know. I don't know, because I'm going to assume not, you know. Where yeah.
I remember at my last time I did a live stream on my phone.
I posted about it on Twitter and I got a fucking reply from that Team YouTube Twitter account saying, sorry to hear about this problem. Is there anything we can do to help? I'm like, fuck you. How dare you fucking... last time I tried to get your... You piece of shit. No. Advice from you if my fucking legs fell off, so... Fuck yourself, you know. You know.
Not really. No, crappy audio hasn't. You know, crap video quality.
Yes. I mean, audio's always been what it has been. You know, I will get. You know, I mean,
I will say this. You know, I have had videos where I deliberately
fucked with the audio for my own amusement, just to annoy people. Like I've buggered around with
the settings, or I've
put random loud noises in, or I've deliberately. I've put it, I've recorded in stereo, but deliberately recorded it so it's only on one side, or whatever. You know, but that's just me trolling, you know, for my own entertainment, you know. Nothing. What, in the last 3.5 minutes? Not much. You wouldn't have heard it anyway, you know. My next show is at Westcliff. It's at the. I can't remember the name of the actual. But it's the seaside venue in Westcliff in Essex, on the 4th of November. But it's not in Manchester. It's to be honest, it's I support anything that just annoys people I don't like, and do you know why? Because fuck him, because that's the basis for their entire political ideology. So why I'm just They've dragged me down to their level. I don't, I no longer have
beliefs or principles.
I just have what annoys you. That's what I'm going.
That's what I believe. Can I post about it?
The reason I haven't been on the Discord a lot, on my Discord, is literally because I needed space on my phone, and so I, removed the app from. It's not the it's I'm not ignoring anyone. I do occasionally add it back on, but but mate, the gig is going to be. I'm not going to be doing anything new at this gig. It's all going to be stuff you've heard before. It's my first gig It's my first gig in well over 18 months. So I'm not taking any chances, and it's a paid gig, so I won't.
Discord's
All right. It depends, really. I mean, it's the problem with certain Discords is they can have two. Don't congratulate me on the gig. It's I haven't done it yet. It could be crap. Any advice performing live? Not really. I mean, just do it. That's it, really. I mean, no, just make sure you know what you're doing. But even if you don't, you've got to be crap on stage. You've got to be crap at some point. If you're crap, nobody will remember you. That's it. So. Also, remember this when it comes to live performing. The only, as a performer, you will only ever learn from the bad gigs. The bad gigs will teach you more than the good gigs. If you go on stage, if I went on stage and performed a 20-minute routine and had a great gig, I haven't learned anything. All I've learned is that material worked tonight in front of that audience. If I went on stage and had a bad gig, then I have to reflect and sit there and go, right, why was that bad? What could I have done to make that better? What mistakes did I make? How could I have approached it differently? What could I have done? Could I have, that's, and then by doing that, I then, next time I go on stage, I will, if I encounter these problems again, I will then know, or at least have a better idea, possibly, of how to deal with it. And always remember that if you have a bad gig, it's always going to be your fault. It's because you did. It's because of. It's not. There's a tendency. This is one of the things I cannot stand, particularly with comedians, are comedians who, when they do their routine and the audience don't laugh, and they blame the audience. They scowl. Like Bill Maher does it all the time. Like if his audience don't he resents them for not laughing, like it's their fault, like they owe him a reaction, and it's like, they don't owe you anything. It's your job. If they don't laugh, it's your. If they don't laugh, it's your fault. You can't sit there and shame people into laughing at your material. Sure nobody here has ever heard a joke that they didn't laugh at, but then you did then you changed your mind after someone had explained to you why it was fun. It never happens. But I mean, Bill Maher can get away
with it, but it's something that I see occasionally.
in newer or younger comedians, and I'm like, you know,
I mean, I got into Patrice
Neil through listening to Opie and Anthony, which is probably of all the things. If I had to make a list, if I had to sort of sit here and go, what's the most problematic thing that you actually enjoy? I probably would have to say Opie and Anthony, the Opie and Anthony show.
The thing about Bill Maher is he's done TV for so long.
And in TV, people are always gonna, his audience is just, it's one of the most annoying, audiences. Like, they're just so submissive to him. But he's been on TV for so long where it's set up to, give you the easiest. Do you know what? It's not like I don't have any love. Listen
To some of it, it's just.
I haven't listened to that much.
But I mean, Opie and Anthony, I binge watched. I literally went on like a
6-7 month just watching as much, and I
actually got into
Jim Norton's stand up, and I have to
say I was genuinely
pleasantly surprised that he was a lot better than I thought he was going to be, Jim Norton. There are moments with Jim Norton where I'm like, I'm verging on saying, like, he's my spirit animal, Limmy. People like Limmy. Even people who don't ever watch Limmy. Yeah. Opie and Anthony, Andrew Dice Clay, and I'm trying to think of anything else. This is unfortunate. I mean, unfortunately, this is kind of a sad thing. I kind of, you get these comedians who, and they get sort of a lot of their material gets hijacked by people who have no sense of humor, and who don't understand that this guy doesn't, he's not on your side. You just, but it's, that's happened to comedy. That's been happening to comedy especially. Well, since forever. It's like, good example. Good example would be, I've done a video on it, Blazing Saddles. Like the amount of right wingers who sit there and fucking eulogize about Blazing Saddles. I'm like, you fucking, this is, when this came out, you were the same cunts who would have fucking been pissing, Chris Rock N-word. It's not the N-word, but it's the black people versus niggers routine, which is a fantastic routine. Dave Chappelle's disappointing. I can't. I won't sit there and denounce everything he's ever done, and I won't. You can't do. I mean, it's like, let's not forget. I mean, two comedy shows that people always, will sit there and and gush over are
raw and delirious.
By Eddie Murphy. But if you actually, and don't get me wrong, they're both great shows, and there's probably like a dozen all-time great stand-up routines between them. But there's also a lot of material there that is incredibly, just I don't like. I know this is an overused term, but it is cringe. It is cringing to listen to, and it is kind of uncomfortable. A lot of a lot of stuff, and you can't, you know. But we're happy to ignore, that. In Eddie Murphy's defence, he has since made it clear that a lot of the material from those shows is stuff that doesn't represent his current views. Never He would never have even attempt to defend or do it today. So, but the fact is that didn't make a difference at the time. Now, 21 at the time, yeah, but I mean
that's not the point. And the point is the fact that people were happy to ignore his incredibly,
he's very overtly homophobic. Well, no, it's not.
That's the point. Is that I'm making is that
it's about context and that. I think the problem with
Dave Chappelle is the material he is becoming known for is material
that is unfortunately aligning him with the worst kind of people, and it's like, and it's a shame because this is a guy who is so talented and has got and he has got he's got fuck you money, and he's got he has the in his hand. He has, if he wants, he can speak truth to power on so many issues that he is better suited and so better equipped to fucking dealing with. Yeah, he's not getting cancelled. Please stop saying that. Do you know what? I wish if being cancelled meant anything, then the people who complain about it,
I would never hear
about. This is the thing. They want you to think that there's this thing called people being how many people have been cancelled who have gotten TV shows, and there was a guy in here once, I remember in one of my chat rooms, and he couldn't get this. He said, if political correctness wasn't ruining comedy, then why has Dave Chappelle just written an entire show about it?
I'm like, what do you mean the show that
it's on Netflix, the show that he toured nationwide, the show that he's probably sold out arenas all over,
the show that's probably made him another $10 million.
Right? Doesn't if political correctness was ruining comedy, then surely writing a show about it would get you nowhere. Then surely we would never, but it won't be. It'll be the most popular freaking thing you've ever bastard written. I see, I can't move stand-up shows written by, written by comedians moaning about, safe spaces and political correctness and cancel culture. I can't fucking move. Yeah, no, I've been cancelled
half a dozen times.
Record sound in the video settings. I don't know if I can do that because I'm.
Jokes about Bush were tiresome, and
turning up for a gig. You can just not book them again. That's not getting, it's kind of, but again, this is an annoying thing, is that this whole thing about getting cancelled or cancel culture, this is an example of what annoys me is when I see leftists, people on the left, using this language, this term that has been created by the right to create this illusion, or create this, this complete and utter myth that somehow,
And here's the thing that annoys
me. It's like, do you believe in what university is this HD reality? Can you be a bit more specific? Because when was this? I might,
I might have an idea
of what you're talking about. Yeah, where specifically? What was the venue? I did a gig in ago, be 2016. That would have been before. I do remember doing a gig at Canterbury University around about then. But I do remember doing one. That was it was Matt Hoss, the compare, because if that was the case,
Oh no, do you know what? No, I know exactly what you mean. Do you know why I didn't turn up for it? Because I had written the
wrong date down
in my diary.
I wrote like,
the date I had in my diary was like a week out, and it wasn't till
and it was my own fault. And yeah, I got contacted.
I was contacted by
the company. Yeah, I just didn't. That's why I didn't turn up for that one.
Because I wrote to the company. I was like, I'm really sorry about this, but
I was right. I had
completely the wrong date written down.
And so yeah, that was it. And I knew it was the wrong
date because I had checked
the email after. So yeah, that's why.
But that was
it happens.
I think that guy, however, the same guy put me in
for another one, because I think he also did a gig in or was it Herne Bay? Oh yeah, so well, I'm not on 5G, so
you can blame your 5G if you're on it.
But I'm not. Yeah.
Let's stop talking about gigs that I haven't done. I'll do it.
I'll undercut anyone you find. Fair enough. Yeah, but that's not cancelling, mate. See, HD, you've completely fucking derailed this conversation.
About something,
I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
No, I wasn't counting. I just literally,
I didn't turn up because I
had the wrong date down. Yeah, it happens. So, you'll get over it.
It's not like it's look. It's not like I'm. It's not like I'm I'm Russell Howard, and it's
not like it was a comedy store.
Was I in a mental hospital? Yes. Well, no, I was in a psychiatric
ward.
for about 10 or 11 days. That was last year. That was voluntarily. That was of. Not now. Not at the moment. If that's what you mean. Consolation, the treatment I received there completely removed my urges to kill. Probably.
Oh, come on, lol, let's not bust on it. In terms of
things that people, that's to the point, He could have come in and gone, "Are you fucking mental?"
No, I mean, the whole time I was there, I have to be honest, I completely, I immediately did what
I always do, which was I suddenly started living out my One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest fantasy, and that I was R.P. McMurphy, and I was looking for a way to bust everyone out of there, so
steal a bus and then take them on a fishing trip.
That didn't happen.
Along with the
Patch Adams and Dr. House equivalents of the of those those two.
But but it was
But it was good. It was necessary. And for the record, it was voluntary. I went there of my own.
What was it like? Right? I mean,
It's never good, is it? I mean, you don't want to,
nobody wants to be there.
But it's thing. Okay, I'll tell you one thing. One thing that the guy did, the therapist did, who was very sharp, is that they have that thing that a lot of people do where they write letters. They get them to write letters to either people they know or people in their past, or even sometimes to themselves. Well, because the guy who's the doctor knew that I did YouTube videos, he suggested, why don't you make a response video to yourself in the part, and I did that. Never been uploaded. I wrote, recorded, and edited a video to myself, like back in so like 6, 7, 8 years ago, and it's never been uploaded, never going to be. No one's ever going to see it.
But that was a really smart thing to do.
He could have just got me to write something, but he thought, he said, this is but this is clearly the meat. This is what this is a medium you're used to. Why don't you try? Did it help? It did actually. Is the thing about those letters is you don't know, you generally write them to people who, but you're never going to send them. The whole point is just getting it off your chest. But of course, this is different because it was to me. It was me, it myself. So the person who it's to did get, was there, Say, fuck it, I'll just,
I'd rather go to $100 a night hotel and then get $100 an hour hooker.
It'd be much more fun. And Um, mm. It wasn't just. I mean, it was like little things. It's like, there's he sort of went into things like, he's like, he sort of suggested, you know I was putting pressure on myself to include too much of my life, and he said just keep some stuff back, some stuff that's just for you, right? And like one of the, you know, and this will drive the Coughlan, the Dick Coughlan art, the Dick Coughlan art, can't draw mental. But one of the things he said was like, have something that's just for you, that that doesn't belong to anyone else. And because this was about a year, or this was actually less than a year after I'd sort of started, after I'd been selling, I sold my first commission, doing artwork, and that, I started learning about 2.5 years previously. But he said if he's like, and I said one of the things I like about drawing is it's something I can do, and and when it's done, I don't need anyone to tell me that's good. No, I don't need to post it on. The thing about comedy, or music, or a YouTube video or a podcast, is without other people listening to it and giving you feedback, it's ultimately meaningless. It ultimately has no value. Whereas, when you're drawing something, you know, you if you've got a pair of eyes, whether or not it's any good. And he's like, well, keep that for yourself. Don't have something that doesn't have to exist on other people's approval. This is why I don't. This is one of the reasons that it's just that despite despite people's protestations or requests, I don't I don't do art live streams or art videos, because I don't need to. It's not, I don't need to prove myself to people who have no, who are, who ultimately, I believe, don't care or have any interest in, do I want to spend, do I want to be somebody who chases, do I want to be someone who sits there and goes, I have to prove this because someone on the internet said, it's like, fuck you, I'm not your, I'm going to keep doing this. Do you know why? Because in fact, I like the fact that it annoys you, that you've convinced yourself that this whole thing is a scam and a hoax, that I can't actually draw. The whole thing has been faked and staged, and that to this day I still get tweets and comments on, from people like saying, and I'm like, and one thing that does annoy me is that when people, sometimes when people make, you see, if somebody asks you, I'm fine with that. If someone asks you, how do what's your process? I will happily tell them. But if somebody just outright accuses you, I will literally say, well, I wipe a monkey's ass with what you think. I don't know you. I don't care. I don't have to, I don't need, I don't need someone to, I don't sit here and force everyone else to show me how they did something, because, that's not, because, and if I did, that would say more about me than you. And then people get shitty with you. They say that, why, like you've literally just accused me of lying to you. You've accused me of, of doing something, of being dishonest, and it's like, how can if someone played me a song that they'd written and I immediately accused them of nicking that off someone, or simply downloading some royalty free music, doesn't that person have a right to be offended? And is that person obliged to prove to me that they wrote that music and that they produced it? No, there's like, they're not under any obligation, because who the fuck am I? It's the same with the it's the same thing with the, like, it's the same thing with, like, the longboarding, or like, my DJ. It's like, it's okay to share what I create. I don't mind sharing what I create, but it's like, this belongs to me. This is my, you know acoustic cover. Well, to be fair, Wonderwall is an acoustic cover of Wonderwall.
I'll be honest with you, Neil. I have recorded some of them, and I've shared them privately with people.
Who, as who requested certain things. I just didn't. But but I let the, and I said to them, they said, and I didn't tell them what to do with it.
I don't want people watching me do anything. Here's the thing. Even if
But here's the reality: the people who are who go around, who immediately wanted to accuse me or try and paint me as some kind of fraud, or or say that I was lying. Even if I gave a time lapse video, do you know what they do? They would sit there and come up with something else. They would say, they would slow it. They would sit there and analyze every fucking frame and say, "Oh look, the thing jumped." I'm like, "Yes, well I edited it. It's a time lapse, and it's like." And they would say, "But that bit, they would say, "Oh, you could easily do this like this." I'm like, "Well, look, nothing unless I sit here and fucking record, make a fucking, some of the more complex or the more sort of detailed pictures I've drawn. Some of them have taken 8-9 hours.
one of them,
There was one, there was one Slipknot one I did in about 18 months ago. It was one of my earlier ones. I spent about 24 hours working on that fucking thing. It's like, do you want me to film all of that and show it to you? You know, because I can't be asked, quite frankly. I mean, if, like I said, there are people who have asked me, and when they've asked me, I've explained it to them. Well, it's not. You don't have to. Here's the thing, mine. You don't have to do it for 8 hours. You could do something for 2 hours, over in four different, for 4 different sessions. It's like not everything has to be done all at once. I get. I hear people all the time. Talk about. I'd love to be able to draw, but I don't have the patience for it. I'm like, well, then you don't have to have the patience for it. Draw something for half an hour until you get bored, and then leave it, and then wait until, and then wait for as long as you have to until you want to draw again. Then go back to it, and then Thanks, Rory. Yeah, I do apologise. I will. I'm trying to make up for it. You're literally laying on the pillow at the back. This is literally a POV. It was Slipknot are dad rock. Yeah. I mean, they've been around 25 years. Well, I used to be like that. I used to be like that with YouTube videos. I remember in the early years of YouTube, I remember spending some videos I would spend 18 hours sometimes editing fucking shit, and that's good, it's good to do something, and it doesn't matter it doesn't matter whether people see it or they buy it or anything. It's I think it was Adam Savage who said it's like it doesn't matter what you create as long as you're creating something. I wouldn't call clown posse rock. What do I do with most of my time? Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, sometimes I'm writing, sometimes I'm just scanning it. So I'm fucking around on my DJ stuff or my electronic music equipment, or I'm drawing something, or I'm just watching documentaries, or or whatever. It's there's no or if I'm doing none of that, I'm just sat here violently wanking like a safari park chimp. These are weeping into a fucking flannel. These are, there are. It's a wonderful cavalcade of variety. My recent this is my recent one. I was limited to the amount of art stuff I could bring, but this was my Taylor Swift one. And before anyone says anything, there's the proof. There's the ink on the other side. Before you says this is a photocopy. There you go. There's the Queen. You know.
Well, I mean, Harper Lee. I mean, like Harper Lee, the woman who wrote To Kill a
Mockingbird. She wrote like one other book, didn't she? That was locked away until after, and it wasn't until after she died. Isn't that one of the things that Isn't that one of those things about Prince? Prince has got like literally hundreds of hours of songs like locked away that will never get.
Yes, I watched that. That was what's her name? I don't know. Atrocity
Guide on YouTube. She's very good. Yeah.
What was the?
Did I watch a documentary?
No, I don't think I did.
No. What did I see recently? I went to see the new James Bond, and what was that? What was the name of that thing I watched just the other day? Oh, Behind Her Eyes.
On Netflix.
She's not a documentary. It's mental, right? But I thought it was, But I thought it was very divisive, and you'll either
Think it's great.
or fucking you'll hate it, but it's bonkers, and and I personally very much enjoyed it. But the new James Bond is excellent. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's 40 years. Well, they're 80 years old. The people who are doing it, and they isn't it's like everything they isn't it like everything they've ever worked on has never been finished, and that you know
well, I love shit
like that you know. It almost makes you feel sort of like inadequate for like even like sharing anything you create when you hear about these people who do all this. These stories come out, or this stuff is discovered. These people who. But I mean, I remember that with the what's his name, the first ever Wallace and Gromit short, A Grand Day Out, the first ever one, which was 30 minutes long, right? The guy who made Nick, what's his name, he spent 10 years making that. It took him 10 years to make that the first 30-minute Wallace and Gromit film, because he did it on his own. He was working a full-time job, and he did it. He would work on it after work. I mean, I just cannot. Personally, I'm in awe of people like that. I'm like, how can you? I would have given up on that. I wouldn't have even got the figures made. I would have bought the plasticine, probably, and that would be it. And I'd have come up with the idea and then never done it.
Yeah, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was again. It's like that was made. It wasn't meant to take that long, but I mean, because it was meant to be a lot shorter, wasn't it? But I think it was made over the course of. They made it. They filmed every they only filmed on the weekends. It wouldn't have taken that long if he'd have done it. If it had been his main, if he had recorded it made it every day, it would have taken a month. But I mean, it's a great film. Bad Taste. It's the sort of, it's one of those films where you look at it and go, you couldn't, this film works as it is. Like it could not, you could make a better version of it with better effects and better acting, but it just wouldn't be the same.
Well, I haven't given up on it. Well, I mean, the thing about YouTube
It's not as the thing about YouTube is not, it's a medium through which, it's not just like if someone says I make YouTube videos, that's not one thing, is it? It's like because you can make all different types of YouTube video. You can make documentaries, you can make comedy sketches, you could make animation, you could do music videos, you could even just upload fucking audio. You can do anything you want, with it. So it's it's not like you're limited just because you're doing videos or whatever.
Thanks for that.
John, yeah, definitely. We're in or around the vicinity of each other, and I'm certain you're not a serial killer. Gonna get some sleep now. Sleep gives you cancer, man. Everyone knows that. And anyway, best of luck. I saw Bad Taste by accident. It was on Channel 4 late one night, which is where a lot of young men of my generation discovered certain things that they hadn't seen before. Never. This is the thing. I've made loads of. There are loads of moments, in over the course of the last 13 years doing doing YouTube, where I've made a complete and utter tit of myself, or I've uploaded, and there's no, and some of them live forever, some of them disappear, but not ashamed of it. It's just that's because the fact of the matter is that's what happens to everybody. There's nobody, there's nobody who has avoided that. The only people who avoid that are people who, really never, who only uploaded for a limited time and then stopped, I remember that I think it was every Thursday, this big white van, a transit van, used to come around, and it had rented video. You could rent videos from a van, you give them back the following week, and then that became the guy who owned that. Then went on to have a video rental store, and I do kind of miss that. There was something, because that was back when, when a film came out, you were like had to get to the video shop. That's what, when Blockbuster Video first started, it was amazing because they always had copies of every film. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't unusual. It's no weirder than an ice cream van, when you think about it. A geezer who came around who cobbled, with toffee apples as well. Either that, or I've just, mistaken my life for a Hovis commercial. This was back when if you were to get a pirate copy of a video, it would be, to say it was unwatchable is an understatement. I mean, it was filmed on a shitty VCR at the back of a theatre, and it's gone, and it was just atrocious. You could hear people in the theatre talking. People would get up halfway. The sound was worse than this. I remember there was a period in the early days of the internet when they still had videos like that, but they were uploaded on streaming services. They were just recorded like. Everyone used to. The trick was it was around about the early 90s when people people learned that trick where if you've got a VHS tape, there's that little space on the side which has got a plastic bit, and if you took that out, then you couldn't record over it. But if you taped over it, then you could. And we used to rent videos. and we also figured out how to copy a video from from that you'd rented. You'd play it on my dad's camcorder, which was the size of of a Humvee, and then you would plug it into your VHS tape,
And then
copy every bloody film that you bloody made, you know. Yeah, I mean it's the same principle. I mean it's the same thing, you know.
yeah, I remember the
God, I remember the original. My dad having the original camcorder. It was it was ludicrous. It was like like we went to Florida for 2 weeks, and he took the VCR. But by the end of the but he took the camcorder. By the end of the 2 weeks, he had to have like he had shoulder fucking problems for the rest of his life.
well, I remember when
Netflix used to when it started out, you know, um, that's what it was. It was just a place you rent DVDs
DVDs from online. I mean, there used to be one, and I was a member of one in this country.
for a time called it was called Love Film, and it was point like they never had anything you wanted. You know,
They just
you would make like you'd make a list of things you want, of things you wanted to rent, and they never had them.
so you'd always end up being
Sent this pish that you know top 20, the top 100 biggest footballing gaffes or some shite that that you put on the list, but you didn't really care to, and the DVDs would come in, and they would. It was like rented DVDs are like rented cars. Nobody treats them with any fucking level of respect or care. They come over and it's like it looked like a fucking London Underground map had been. Well, do you know what? This was the thing. Those piracy ads that always say you wouldn't steal a handbag. My response was always no, I wouldn't. But you know what I would do? I would get a handbag, and then I would copy how I would look at
how it was made, and then make one
that was identical to it but cheaper, and then sell it.
for a lower price at a profit. I'd do that. Wouldn't stick there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but
That doesn't sound too illegal to me. That sounds
you can't.
you can't copyright fucking sewing, can you?
I like
The IT crowd's parody of that. You wouldn't steal a policeman's helmet, then do a poo in that helmet, then shoot the policeman, then send his helmet with the poo in it to his widow, and then shoot her. Isn't it sad how pirates
used to be these like
people who were like had ships and like treasure and used to go on swashbuckling adventures. Now they're just geezers who come up to you in a pub and go, "Do you want a DVD? Yeah. Do you want DVD, mate?" Because let's be honest, all of the
whatever films they were
selling, it was just a gateway drug to the incredibly violent pornography that they were going to try and flog onto you. Of course, they were shit quality. What were you expecting? Nothing of any value is going to be sold.
nothing of any value
has ever been bought in an alleyway and sold to you on an unlabeled disc, with Jurassic Park written on it in fucking Sharpie. It's not. That was, but in a way, that was part of the charm to it. That was part of the. This is one of the things I miss about VHS pornography. Is VHS porn had a kind of grainy, gritty, quality to it that made it feel a bit seedier. Now it's all DVD and 4K, and you can see everything. You can see the pores in their skin, for God's sake, and it's just, to me, it's like, they need to lower the quality. I remember going to Spain, like Benidorm and like stuff, and you would and you'd get these geezers who sell you these watches out of fishing tackle boxes. Because it was cheap, and you think, well, this might be the one statistical anomaly where it's actually, and it wouldn't, and you realise they were smart bastards, because they'd always sell you the watch at midday, but it only had one bloody hand. Prostitution. Well, that never happened to me. Probably says more. That's probably, this is an early example of male privilege. But you always get a Rolex watch. Yeah, a Rolex watch or a. How can you make something this badly? I could learn how to make a better watch on my own, get the materials, and produce a better. Like, how is it? And you think they've got the outer casing of a watch? All you got to do is just put the insides in it, and you've got a watch company, mate. And you don't have to. Cool. At least you get a hot dog out of that one. You make fun of stuff like that, but then you think, you look at China. People go to China, and that's literally what China is. China is just a country that has no concept of copyright law, and doesn't give a fuck. It's like they just make their own fake versions of everything, and then just make it look identical in almost slightly, virtually the same as any sort of famous Western brand. So like their coffee looks almost like, their coffee cups look kind of like Starbucks. Their tablets look kind of like Apple. Their bags have the same pattern as Louis Vuitton or all this other stuff. Wish.com is an entire website that has somehow managed to become huge based on the fact that everything they sell you is shite. There's an entire genre of YouTube videos that there are thousands, tens of thousands of YouTube videos that are basically, I went on Wish.com and bought this, and the whole point of the video is to see how terrible what you've bought is. I mean, in a way, when you think about it, that is kind of genius. It's like, let's set up an online marketplace where everything we sell is crap, but that's the reason people. reason people buy it. People buy it because it's shit. And because one day, you know, you're going to buy something from wish.com. It's going to be exactly what they advertised it as, and it's going to work perfectly. And and on that day, you're going to feel, you know, you're going to feel like I've just won at life. You know, that's going to be more special than just doing it, you know, buying it off Amazon. You're definitely going to get what you pay for.
It is said.
I love how you qualify that. It is said.
What else has been said?
Virtually everything. Squizzle deck. That's never been said before. Well, apart from me, yeah. You can get from Wish that you know you're not going to get fucked on are things that things that are so cheap and fucking
easy to make that it's
almost impossible for them to bugger them up, you know. I remember, I think it was, you know, in 2005, a mate of mine buying tickets, concert tickets off eBay, and they arrived and they were literally, someone had just photocopied, you know, a pair of tickets onto a piece of paper. That was it. People could get away with that. I've got things like, you know, but then you've got shops like Wilko. Wilko, I go in and every time I convince myself, I tell myself, don't buy anything section of Wilko. Just don't do it. And I go in there and convince myself. I delude myself into actually you know, it will be, and if this, and whatever I buy, if it's working within an hour of me plugging it in, I feel like it's been worth the money. I'm comfortable with the government spying on me and reading my emails. You know why? Because I'm not reading them. There's fuck all in there worth interesting. This is the thing. A lot of people, you know, I'm not saying that people don't have legitimate complaints and issues. You know, the issues, you know, are not valid. But let's be honest. There's a lot of people who want to believe that the government are reading their emails because they want to believe that there's anything that they're saying is of any interest or value. And it's like no one cares, mate. No one gives a shit. I know in your world you want to believe that you're going to be. That there's this perverse fantasy where you're going to be sent to Guantanamo Bay, you know, or some Mars penal colony, you know, because of something you wrote in an email, and then you're going to become like the next Nelson Mandela, but you're not, right? The government don't give a toss what your fucking, you know, what your email. Going to be frigging disappointed when they finally arrest you and realise how wrong they were. You know, you know, successful, you know, brands and companies and stuff like that is people slack them off all they want, but it's like there's a reason people keep buying it. You know, and you know, I'm as guilty of it as, you know, it's like, you know, people sit here and talk about slag off Amazon and Jeff Bezos. It's like you're all fucking buying off them though, aren't they? You're all fucking, you know, you're all using it, you know. You can sit there and whine and piss and moan about, you know, companies that use, you know, that use cheap sweatshop labour. You're still buying the fucking shit, aren't you? You're true about Apple being overpriced. I think there's, you know, there's an argument to be made. Do you know there's a guy on YouTube. I forget his fucking name, but he was like, look, he made this video, which was in which it was the first ever. He looked at this, yes, like old retro technology, and one of his videos, he was looking at this what was originally technically the first ever tablet. It was this big fucking, I can't remember who made it, but it was but this was in '93, so there's no internet, no phone. It's got it's got like your basic 2 shades of grey LCD screen, um, and all of that. And this thing was 5,000. Thanks, Chris. I'm gigging in Westcliff in the beginning of November. Other than that, at the moment, nothing much else. Yeah, but this thing was $5,000 when it came out. Like 5,000 fucking dollars, and you know, and it's like compared to compared to even your first generation iPads. It's not even a fucking. It's not even a fucking 10,000th of the of the percent. Using iPhones, you know what it never breaks, despite how many times I drop it. The only time it breaks is when I fucking smash the screen. It's never get hacked. It's never got a disease. It's never got infected. I've never got fucking, nothing fucking, always works. It's got all my shit on it. It's all in one place. It's
Oh no, I don't buy.
the Apple.
Store is amazing. It's like walking around. It's like an airport.
When you walk around an airport and go, do you guys know? Do you guys realise? You know how much this stuff costs outside of here, right? $17 for a tuna sandwich, perfectly reasonable.
No, I'm not talking about the first 12 types of iPhone. I'm talking about this.
The first tablet that was made in like the early '90s. This thing was $5,000, right? Even your most even your full spec fucking big most up to date iPad is not even half that, and it can do a fucking billion and one fucking more things than that fucking thing ever could. My dad had one of the original mobile phones. That fucking brick with a fucking antenna the size of your average dildo, and thing that fucking you needed a fucking wheelbarrow to carry this pissing thing around with. And I bet I don't know how much it cost, but I think compared to your average fucking smartphone or even your average iPhone, it's fucking things like AirPods, which people complain about. Yeah, AirPods are expensive, but you know what? They're still only like a quarter of the price of a pair of earbuds made by Bose or Bang& Olufsen. I can find headphones that would fucking, that would literally, financially cripple me if I fucking had to. I would never pay. I would never end up paying them back. You could, Beats by Dre. They're nowhere near. They're expensive, and yes, they're more sort of style over substanceness. But that's just smart marketing. No, but you don't lose them. This is the thing, Chris. People think you lose them, but you don't. Because people said the same things about mobile phones. They thought they're just going to lose them all the time. But you don't lose them. Do you know why? Because you take care of them. They stay in your ears. If it fell out, you'd notice. Um, and you tend to take, generally when you spend a lot of money on something, and there's a risk of you losing it, yeah, but you don't lose it that often, do you? You probably don't lose it as much. To the point where you think, I'm not buying a freaking phone, Even today, you look at flat screen. I mean, today nowadays every TV you buy is flat screen TV, right? You bought a flat screen TV when I was, when I was a teenager. it cost you a fucking fortune. Like, there was no, only the richest fucking family, the kid who had the richest family in your class might have had a flat screen TV. You know, compared to how much more inferior tech was 30 years ago, it's actually quite cheap. It's actually a lot cheaper. I don't know what $5,000 was 30 years ago or 35 years ago. It's probably close to it. You're probably looking at a phone. Forget Apple. Forget you can get a smartphone for fucking what, 350 quid. That's pretty fucking. That's quite remarkable. And the only tablets, and I've bought tablets before that were like 120 quid, and you know what? They worked brilliantly for a week. Yeah. I mean, even stuff like my green screens stuff that I have, which is a big frame which had 4 different coloured backdrops, including a green screen. It came with 2 studio lights, the big, you had the things to put the lampshade things to put over them. Those reflector tinfoil things I never know how to use. That was 60 quid. In the 80s, green screen, or blue screen as it was then, that was like the most advanced film technology there was. I remember going to see that, Masters of the Universe film with Dolph Lundgren, which came out in like the early 90s. Right? The whole selling point of that was that most of the film was done using green screen or blue screen, right? 60. Now you can go online and buy it for 60 quid. You can get. I remember back in, when I sort of started getting into animation software, and I was looking at different animation software. There was one, I can't remember what it was called, but it was $400. This software program, and this was the same software, animation software that was used to create the scenery in Lord of the Rings. And you think, and I can buy it for my, and put it on my on my laptop for fucking for 400. That is insane when you think about it. You couldn't buy the Jurassic Park animation software back in '94. There's an app, and I don't know. It turns your phone into a teleprompter, so you can still look at the what is effectively the camera and still see the text going up. Yeah. Also, I mean, imagine, because there's a lot more things in a film that are blue than there are green. If you want to film something like, oh, I don't know, the sky, or someone's eyes, whereas bright green is, I mean, even that. I mean, looking at apps. Look at that. Look at all the things you can do on all the things you could, the world of knowledge and fucking information, or the things you could learn, or the things you can do with, with apps. That's, don't get me wrong. Some of them are fucking, some of them, are, money that they charge, but still, I'm with you on that, Martin. If you like your story, go with it. It's not hurting anyone. Sounds plausible enough, doesn't it? It's not hurting anyone, is it? Yeah. Think about people have, the cameras that people use today to make vlogs. Think about how much more powerful they are.
advanced than
The cameras that filmed Terminator 2. And all people are doing with vlogs is what I'm doing now, filming their head, saying some stuff.
well, John, do you remember?
You probably remember, John, as I did as a kid. I remember the scene at the beginning of Die Hard where John McClane goes into the Nakatomi Tower and he's looking for Holly, and the guy tells him to, and it's a touchscreen thing, and he's like, "Hey, neat little toy you got here," and it was amazing. The idea of, you know,
When you think about nowadays,
it's like a phone with actual buttons is completely obsolete. You know, like a phone with actual analog pads is completely redundant.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. I think probably
The fucking spaceship that landed on the moon probably had about 12 megabytes of fucking data on it.
Yeah,
Fair. I mean, to be fair, some of the it's like I watch Unbox Therapy, and it's easy. It's easy when when you see the level of when they start talking about stuff like that, like like the speed of the devices and that, you know, it's like they're giving you, and if you watch enough of him, you get sucked into it and you start believing that this matters. And it's like, well, as you see here, this one is 0.025 seconds faster. Then I'm like, well, what am I saving a year by getting the slower phone? And like, give it a second. It's got to go to space and back. You know,
so you see as people,
well, they have to wait they have to wait, you know 2.5 seconds for their
for their phone to fucking
fucking load the screen, and they lose their goddamn mind. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you fuckers would have died during the days of dial-up when it took you a week to get a fucking JPEG image. You know,
turn out you're pretty normal.
you consider yourself lucky. You shouldn't want to be abnormal just for the purposes of being interesting, because you know what the great thing about being normal is that this is the internet, John, and you can lie. It's kind of like the sort of like, it reminds me. I used to, well, I've mentioned this before, I think in a stand-up routine, but it's like the difference between people who live in, who when they first go to London, and they're amazed at they're completely and utterly just amazed at the fact that on the London Underground there's a train every 2 minutes to their destination. They can't get over it, and yet you live there, and yet give that motherfucker 3 months, and they miss their tube, and they're screaming bloody murder, you know. And international calls, do you realise I still to this day am like, Skype to me is still possibly one of the most amazing things ever. Like, I used to sit there when Skype was at its peak of popularity. Like, there would be me and 12 other people in who combined would be in 4 different continents, in 7 different countries, and we would sit there in a group phone call for 12 to 15. Sometimes we would go away and come back or fall asleep. You wouldn't hang up and it cost you nothing. It nothing. you know the idea that you could sit here, look at this now, look how many, there's only 14 people in here, but I don't know how fucking, but I'm sat here, and this is costing you know, effective to do this? Nothing. And we're having this group conversation. But you can go on Skype, and I've spoken to people from all over the world for fucking, you know, just endless periods of days, you know, and it's free. That's mental, you know. Costs money now. You know. Well, I mean, everything that was successful on the internet, you know, that was the thing that it took a while for people to realise is that, you know, is that for whatever reason, you know, people, you know, when people became, you know, got on the internet, they suddenly resented being charged for anything. So, what they realised was, what people realised was the way to do the most successful brands or the most successful websites or companies are ones that give you shit for free and then just plaster advertising over everything. That's why Google, you know, when Google came around, it was like, oh look, a search engine that literally is a bar. I type something in and it gives me. I don't have a million pop-ups. I don't have a. You know, it can work. It's quick. It's, you know.
I don't have to worry about this. Yeah,
That's why it was working. You know, same with, you know, MySpace and Facebook and Twitter and Skype and YouTube and, you know, all these other, you know, websites, you know, porn company, you know. Well, the porn, how do they stay in? Like, you can get it all free. Yeah, you can get it all free. But what's one of the most successful websites in recent years? Right, OnlyFans.
they make.
Do you know how they make money from it? The same way YouTube makes money. The same way any other company makes money. You know, is that they get money because, you know, people, you know, because people, the fact that people are watching is not, but also there's subscriptions. You know, you know, 9.90, you know, 90, you know, yes, you can get it all for free, but still, it's, you know, it still takes a bit of effort. It still takes a bit of effort to search around, or you can pay Pornhub 9.99, and you've literally got 100 billion hours.
You can download, which is even more important. But when you think about it,
If someone had described OnlyFans to you a couple of years ago, you'd think, well, that's not going to work as a website. Why would people pay money and subscribe to? Why would they pay money to these individual, you know, women making their own amateur porn and pay, you know, quite a lot of money for not, you know, not a huge amount of content, but they do. You know, when it's all, you know, it shouldn't work, but it does. Do you know why? Because that's what men are like.
because ultimately,
There's a pair of tits on that fucking, on that page that I haven't seen and I want to see them. Yeah, cam girls have, right? But OnlyFans is, you know, but OnlyFans is not the same thing as cam girls. Cam girls is something you can get, you can still get for a lot of content. With OnlyFans, it's you know, the girls from Live Jasmine were never making the money that some of the, that, you know, some of the girls on OnlyFans are making. Yeah. And I love how OnlyFans this weird thing where people describe their success and popularity by how many thousandth of a percent. You know, the top. What top percentile are they in? If, like, you know, when you get someone who's got like 0.007%, you're like, oh, this one, yeah, she's, you know. I remember getting a notification from OnlyFans saying your account is now in the top 98.9% of. I'm like, wow, who are the poor cunts beneath me? What do they do? What could they possibly be uploading? Is it just like old episodes of Emmerdale Farm or something? I used to have one that was, that I actually promoted, but I just set it up for a laugh. I then closed that. I've got another one, but I don't share or promote it. Um, Occasionally I do when I'm fucking around, when I feel like just scaring the shit out of people. Yeah, it's just called Emmerdale now. Yeah, story in. You know.
Misogyny was rampant
In the 90s, yeah, it's a good job we stamped that out, wasn't it?
Yeah, we sorted out that.
We've sorted that problem out, haven't we?
We do. I don't think
It's not a perfect system. What OnlyFans has done is it's given power back to, it's given a lot of the control and power back to the women doing it, rather than them having to put their,
it's made the whole thing mundane.
not really. Um,
It reminds me of that
the
accident.
Jesselnick joke where he starts talking about racism. He goes, "So racism's recently become a problem in America. I don't know if you've noticed this," and it's one of my favourite positions. It's taken them well, to an extent, yes. I mean, um,
Read what I said.
sorry, Martin. I want,
I want to.
just like your green screen bollocks. I'm gonna reject your reality and substitute my own.
You can't complain.
Otherwise, you're a hypocrite, and that's the worst thing ever. You know, as we all know.
Doesn't matter what you're
Accused of, or what hideous crimes you've committed, people will always try and throw things like, "Oh, he's also a hypocrite and a liar." I'm like, wow, who would have thought? It's
it's like
people say, like, can you believe what Joseph Fritzl said during the trial? Can you believe the hypocrisy? I know, who would have thought the guy that imprisoned and raped his own daughter for 24 years and fathered 7 children with her, who would have thought this man would have been capable? It's just, there's one,
there comes a point.
like when someone commits a crime, and you should be like, everything less horrifying than that should be considered a given. Like, it shouldn't be shocking at any point.
There is. I mean,
I have a things. I have a sort of the Joseph Fritzl case is one of those things that I'm it disturbs and terrifies me, but I'm also like I try and listen to as I've recently got an audio book on it, which is 11 hours long, which I'm built psychologically working my way up to. But the but what I will give this, like, the lawyer who to in his defense, to be fair to him, his lawyer, when he went to court, who he had to have, he had a legal right to a defense attorney. This fucker, this poor bastard tried. You could tell this poor bastard was, he really, he did his job, but you had to feel sorry for him, you know.
it's like, how the
Fucking, how are you supposed to even begin? like, you know, defending, like, you know. You're one of these pro bono lawyers, and you finally got your big break. It's a big case. What am I doing? You're defending Joseph Fritzl. Oh, for fuck's sake! He said to the jury in his opening statement was, you know, I want you to try, you know, he said to the jury, and this starts off as a reasonable request. He says, I want you to put aside any prejudices or any kind of, you know, anything that you've got in your mind now that may, you know, that may paint Joseph Fritzl in a, you know, completely negative light, because, you know, whilst the media have portrayed him as a monster, it's important to remember things like during Christmas, he used to take Christmas decorations and a tree down into the soundproof dungeon where he was violently raping his daughter for 24 years and imprisoning multiple, you know, it's like, dude, seriously, that's, is, you know, and I don't envy him. I'm sure he didn't want to say this. I'm sure he felt like an idiot as he was saying it, but he's like, this is the best I've got, Joseph. The best I've gone through your entire life. You're 82 years old, and the best thing I can fucking find of you being even remotely, decent as a human being, you know, is the fact that you took Christmas decorations down to your soundproof, rape dungeon. That's it. If you've got anything else to give me, literally anything at this point, I would really appreciate it. You know. You know. That could be a funny dark comedy series. This lawyer a lawyer who has to defend the worst people ever, and every year, every week, it's every episode he's got to defend some other awful human being beyond fucking beyond fucking. Well, also, I mean, to be fair, it's kind of confusing for. I mean, I suppose the best thing you can say is it helped give them some concept of time, because you've got to remember they're underground. The poor offspring of the products of this incestuous fucking hate crime that he committed. These poor fuckers never went outside. They didn't know. They watched television. They saw things on television, but they didn't know the outside world existed. You know. Can you imagine the mind fuck of growing up your entire life in one room? In this underground, just four walls, and watching television, but this ain't real, and not having any clue that the outside world existed, and then suddenly that woman, Elizabeth Fritzl, she deserves, she doesn't get enough credit for how incredibly just that woman is. She's got strength and character on a level that most people will never be able to dream of. It's I mean, I fucking wouldn't. I mean, I would not have. Because it's an unthinkable situation for you to put yourself in in the best, in. But when you take into account the length of time and just, you know, and then add to that, throw into that, all of the, the fact that then she's then got children, and it's like, and she's down there for so long. She had, and by the time she came out, she was like, I mean, she was no, she was like 42 when she came out, but she looked like an 80-year-old woman. She had no teeth. She had fucking, she was anemic. She had long grey. Her hair had all gone grey. Um,
She's also got
4 children, you know, who are not only her children, but also her siblings. You know, and those are the 4 that survived. You know, and those fucking she knew the outside world existed, so she had something to, when she was out, she had that sense of just absolute, obviously, relief. But imagine never knowing. Imagine being convinced, or being under the impression that there is no outside world. The only thing I can, it must be literally like you're Neo in the Matrix, like, except you don't, you never had a concept of the Matrix. Like, you're just told one day, oh, yeah, everything's computer generated. I cannot even begin, like,
to get my head around.
that,
It's like a sort of Truman show.
sort of thing,
Yeah, well,
One of them, well, the older uh, one, I can't remember how old he was. Um, I think he was like, late teens. Her son, when he came out, but he would walk around with just taking everything. Like, he would stare at stuff like street lights because he couldn't believe they were, and he remembers, and he remembers the first time walking into a park, and it's one of those stories. The thing about it is, it's one of those stories where after you listen to it, you one of the things you suddenly feel incredibly guilty, and you feel bad about any time you've ever complained about anything in your life ever, because because you listen to it and you're like, I'm never gonna fuck, I'm never gonna moan shit things how shit things are, because if this woman can get through this and fucking come out of it, all positive, and they got to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger and Robbie Williams. I mean, I'm not saying that was worth it. I'm just saying, the oldest boy, he had had a stoop and a hunchback because he was a bit too tall for the room. It was only 6 foot high, or even less than that. So it's like he was constantly, you know, and they've had no sunlight, so they've got rickets. I think products of immediate incest. It's not Robin Williams. If Robin Williams had done that, he would have done, and he'd have been brilliant at it. But it wasn't Robin Williams. It was Robbie Williams. You know, gig for any entertainer. Let's be fair, but rooms in my time. But yeah, the Fritzl family Christmas party is probably material that just ain't gonna work. I'm gonna go. It's been lovely. It's been wonderful. It's been real. I will hopefully, you know, I will hopefully see you all again very soon. until then, thank you very much, Mr. Morning, and good bastard.